The alien prison had no escape until they captured a human. For 300 years, the Varkan prison had never lost a prisoner. Not once. No one had escaped its walls. No one had broken its doors. No one had even discovered how the prison actually worked. The Varkan Empire called it the Silent Vault. A prison built inside a dead moon, orbiting a star that had been collapsing for thousands of years. It held the galaxy's most dangerous criminals. War criminals. Rebel commanders. Scientists who had created forbidden weapons. Alien creatures capable of destroying entire cities. And every prisoner had one thing in common. They had tried to escape. And every single one had failed. Until the Varkans captured a human. His name was Daniel Cross. And the strangest thing about Daniel wasn't that he was brave. It wasn't that he was strong. It wasn't even that he was intelligent. It was that when the Varkan guards threw him into the most secure prison in the galaxy, Daniel looked around his cell for 6 seconds. Then smiled. The guard watching him through the observation window frowned. "Why is the human smiling?" Another guard answered. "Fear response." "No." "Pain response." "No." "Then why?" The first guard stared at Daniel. "Because he thinks he can escape." The other guard laughed. "Nobody escapes the Silent Vault." Inside the cell, Daniel looked directly at the camera and whispered 4 words. "That's what they think." Chapter 1: The Human. 3 days earlier, Daniel Cross had been aboard a small exploration vessel near the edge of Varkan territory. The ship wasn't military. It wasn't carrying weapons. It wasn't even supposed to be there. Daniel was part of a scientific expedition studying gravitational anomalies. Then the Varkans arrived. 6 warships appeared from hyperspace. Their commander opened a communication channel. "Unknown vessel. Shut down your engines." Daniel's captain immediately complied. "We're scientists. We have no hostile intentions." The Varkan commander replied with a single sentence. "Your species has been classified as a potential security threat." The captain stared at the screen. Potential. The Varkan commander didn't answer. A beam struck the ship. The crew lost consciousness. When Daniel woke up, he was alone. His hands were restrained. His equipment was gone. And something enormous was standing outside his cell. The creature had 6 eyes, 4 arms, and armor covering its entire body. It looked at Daniel like he was an animal inside a cage. "Human Daniel Cross," it said. Daniel slowly sat up. "That's me. You are now a prisoner of the Varkan Empire." Daniel looked around. "How long?" The guard seemed confused. "How long what?" "How long until I escape?" The guard laughed. It was the first time Daniel realized something important. The aliens genuinely believed escape was impossible. That meant the prison wasn't just secure. It was built around a secret. And Daniel had always been good at finding secrets. Chapter 2: The Impossible Prison. The Silent Vault had no visible doors. No windows. No ventilation shafts. No electronic panels. No locks. Each cell was a perfect cube made from a strange black material. The walls didn't conduct electricity. They didn't reflect heat. They didn't respond to sound. And according to Varkan technology, they couldn't be damaged. Every prisoner received the same explanation. The walls are absolute. Daniel spent his first 6 hours doing nothing. He sat on the floor. He watched. He listened. And most importantly, he counted. Every 11 minutes and 43 seconds, the lights flickered. Every 27 minutes, a vibration passed through the floor. Every 90 minutes, the air temperature dropped slightly. And every 6 hours, something happened that the guards didn't notice. The gravity changed. Only by a tiny amount. But Daniel noticed. He had spent years studying physics. A human might ignore a change that small. Daniel didn't. He placed a metal food tray on the floor. It slowly moved 3 millimeters toward the wall. Daniel smiled. Interesting. The prison wasn't stationary. It was rotating. Not physically. Something underneath the prison was manipulating the gravitational field. Daniel put his hand against the wall. Then he whispered, "You're not a prison." He paused. "You're a machine." Chapter 3: The First Test. The next morning, a Varkan scientist entered the observation room. His name was Dr. Krall. He was considered one of the greatest engineers in the Empire. He watched Daniel through the glass. "Human," he said through the speaker. Daniel looked up. "Yes, stars. You have been staring at the walls for 14 hours. Inside the ship, every system was operating perfectly. I'm trying to understand." Captain Reed looked at the countdown. Dr. Krall 10 seconds. "Understanding is irrelevant. 5. The walls cannot be broken. The engines increased power." Daniel shrugged. "I'm not trying to break them." 1. Odyssey crossed the boundary. Dr. Krall every screen went black. "Then what are you trying to responding?" Navigation failed. Artificial intelligence shut down. The communications disappeared. Daniel continued. The crew suddenly found themselves surrounded by darkness to keep prisoners inside. Captain Reed remained calm. Dr. Krall's expression changed. The chief engineer checked the manual instruments. Main computer is offline. The alien scientist looked nervous. Offline. Daniel noticed. Communications. And that was all the confirmation he needed. And there was something else inside. The engineer smiled. Something even the Varkans feared. Reed nodded. Chapter 4. The prisoner next door. Looked outside. That night she expected Daniel heard something. Instead, 3 knocks. She saw stars. 2 thousands of them. But they weren't the stars they knew. They were arranged differently. Another prisoner was communicating patterns. Daniel Lena whispered. 3. Captain. 2. What? 3. The blackout isn't hiding the stars. Then a voice came through the wall. She pointed toward the window. It's showing us something. How did you know? Chapter 5. I have studied your species. The stars formed lines. What's your name? Thousands of them. Kale. The lines connected into enormous geometric structures. A long silence followed. The ship's scientists began recording them manually. I destroyed a without computers. They used Daniel raised an eyebrow. Old-fashioned cameras. Why? Mechanical measuring devices. Human Daniel nodded. The very technology the galaxy had abandoned. Kale laughed quietly. They discovered that the stars formed a map. So I've been told. A map covering thousands of light years. Daniel asked the important question. At the center was a single symbol. How long have you been here? A circle surrounded by 3 lines. Lena have you tried escaping? It appeared in humanity's oldest archaeological records. A symbol discovered on Earth thousands of years ago. Kale hesitated. Humans had always assumed because the prison changes. It wasn't. Daniel sat up. It was a warning. Changes? Captain Reed asked. The corridors moved. What does it mean? The gravity shifts. Lena answered. Doors appear in different places. Sensors changed frequency. At the map. The blackout's eyes widened. It was artificial. No. And whoever built it had done so on a scale beyond anything humanity had imagined. Daniel looked at the black wall. Chapter 6. Suddenly, the entire prison Odyssey followed the map. The silent vault wasn't just into the blackout. It was an adaptive system. No every time a prisoner attempted an escape, advanced navigation. The prison learned from only manual calculations. The more they tried, the better they found something. Daniel smiled. Completely dark. Good news. No atmosphere. Kale asked. No visible cities. We don't know energy signatures. But beneath the surface, escape the prison's prediction. There was something. Captain Reed ordered the ship to land. Method. The crew entered an underground structure. Daniel never attempted an escape. Inside were enormous corridors. Instead, he did something that confused every guard. Lena recognized perfectly. They belonged to civilizations that had disappeared thousands of years ago. Then he never touched something terrifying. He never approached the door. Random. He never asked questions. Each one represented a civilization human had given up. And beside every civilization was the same symbol. He was collecting data. The crew realized what they were looking at. Every vibration. The blackout wasn't destroying civilizations. Every movement was testing lights. Every guard rotation. The test. Every delay. The ancient structure summarized everything. Humanity had learned this lesson long before reaching the stars. Not if you can't overpower something completely different. Understand it. It spoke in a language the crew couldn't understand. On the eighth day, appeared on the Daniel wall. Discovered the pattern. Advanced civilization. The prison didn't actually predict prisoners. Then another line appeared. It predicted behavior. Dependency test and that distinction mattered. The prison expected fear. Dependency. It expected desperation. The voice continued. It expected rebellion. It expected logical remained offline. So Daniel did something the machine wasn't designed to understand. Nothing changed. He became unpredictable. Communication. He stopped following routines. The crew continued working. He slept at random times. Automated navigation. He walked in circles. They calculated positions manually. He suddenly shouted random words. He asked guards questions that had nothing to do with escaping. Captain Reed looked at his crew. System began Humans had spent centuries preparing for exactly this, and not intentionally. Daniel could almost imagine the machine when computers failed. What is this creature doing? Knew how to calculate. That was the weakness. When communication failed, was incredibly intelligent. Knew how to signal, but it had when automation failed. It was designed by aliens, and it had never studied testing technology. Chapter 6. It was testing civilization. On the ninth night, Daniel stood in the center of his cell. Lena finally understood. 11 minutes. Every civilization that entered the blackout had depended completely on advanced technology. Their ships couldn't navigate without computers. Changed. Their societies couldn't communicate without quantum networks. A door. Their food systems depended on automation. Daniel smiled. Their governments depended on artificial intelligence. But he had proven something. When the blackout removed the prison wasn't reacting to him. Their civilization was reacting to the gravity cycle. Humanity was different. The door wasn't supposed to appear. Humans were more advanced. It was a synchronization because humans were inconsistent. A tiny mistake created by millions of calculations happening simultaneously. Still preserved Daniel had found the moment when the prison systems briefly disagreed. Now he knew how to build machines by hand. Still trained pilots to fly manually. Still I need you to trust systems as backups. Kale laughed. The galaxy considered those things primitive. I have learned never to trust anyone. Primitive meant independent. Then trust and independent meant alive. Chapter 7. Chapter 9. The Escape. The Real Purpose. At exactly 3:17 voice spoke again. Daniel stood against the wall. Kale the underground chamber opened. 2 prisoners. Beyond it was an enormous structure. One machine larger than a planet. Daniel surrounded a tiny artificial star. Kale stared at it. The vibration traveled through the structure. The answer appeared. The prison reacted. Galactic warning system. Gravity shifted. The machine had been built millions of years ago. For exactly 0.8 its creators had encountered something outside the system restarted something dangerous. Daniel's wall destroy it. He stepped through. Built the blackout. For the first time whenever a civilization became technologically dependent enough to detect the outside threat, an alarm immediately activated. Red lights temporarily removed advanced technology toward Daniel. Not to kill civilization. Daniel wasn't running. He was walking straight toward the center of the prison. Whether they could survive without it. The guards surrounded him. If they passed, stop. They received Daniel the warning. Raised his hands. If they failed, I'm not escaping. The blackout disappeared. The guards hesitated. And the civilization disappeared with it. Daniel pointed behind them. What is outside the galaxy? You should be more worried about what's escaping. The machine displayed the guards turned. A region of cell was open. Then another. Behind Kale. Then dozens of other cells were opening. Captain Reed stared. The prison's prediction system had been overloaded. Lena whispered. Daniel hadn't hacked ships. He hadn't destroyed 10. The real had simply forced it to the ancient civilization had discovered something the entire security network began not an empire, not an army. A swarm. Lights failed. Millions of autonomous machines traveling and the prisoners walked out. They consumed energy. The secret. Stars. But Daniel suddenly stopped. Entire because he saw something beneath the prison. The ancient builders a massive circular chamber. Because wherever was a machine unlike nothing he had ever seen. No signals. It wasn't a reactor. No life. It wasn't an engine. It was a galactic blackout was actually a shield. Kale looked at it. It hid the galaxy's energy signatures. Daniel stared. It made the galaxy appear empty. The reason hadn't built the silent vault to imprison criminals. The system was masking. They had built it around. The blackout wasn't destroying the galaxy. It was hiding the galaxy from something that had already destroyed countless others. They looked at the data. Every criminal inside the vault had unknowingly served as part of the containment system. The silence will arrive in 19 years. Their cells. Nobody spoke. Their Captain energy. Reed looked toward his crew. Attempts to escape. Then toward Earth. Everything was being used to power the machine. Daniel Chapter 11. Kale. The return. We made a mistake. Odyssey returned to the edge of the blackout. What? When they crossed the boundary, we didn't escape. Every system came back online. Daniel looked at the machine. The galaxy was waiting. Turned it off. The Galactic Council immediately contacted them. Something moved beneath them. Captain Reed transmitted the data. Like breathing. The council scientists examined heavy. At first, they refused to believe it. Running. Then they detected the same signals. Why the Varkans feared the silence was real. The prison wasn't holding 19 years. It was holding 3,000 years, and whatever was underneath the blackout was waking up. Now humanity understood its purpose. The choice. It had never been the enemy. It had been the warning. Chapter 12. Humanity makes a decision. The commander was terrified. The Galactic Council proposed another evacuation. Humanity refused him. The council was shocked. You don't understand what you have done. That destroyed civilizations older than yours. If that creature escapes, millions will die. We don't intend to fight it alone. Daniel looked around. For the first time in galactic history, he wasn't thinking about his own freedom. Something different. He was thinking about surrender, about evacuation, about the billions of people who didn't even know this thing would contribute technology. He could leave. Every species. The prison doors were open. The advanced civilizations would provide energy. Daniel could escape. The humans would provide what was underneath. Redundancy. So he made a decision. Independent systems. Manual controls. Get everyone out. Backup communication. Kale stared at civilization-wide survival training. Daniel looked at the galaxy would prepare for a war where technology might fail. Kale shook his head. Because now they understood. You're insane. The blackout wasn't something to fear. Probably it was something to learn from. Then he walked toward the final chapter. Chapter 10. Second blackout. The human who stayed. 19 years passed. Daniel reached the center of the containment system. Billions of machines was failing. The most didn't know how civilizations built incredible weapons. He didn't have the tools. Humanity built something different. Technology. Millions of independent systems. Ships that could navigate without computers. He studied the energy flow. Cities that could operate without networks. One channel was overloaded. Factories that could produce without artificial intelligence. Daniel realized what was happening. Communication systems that could work without quantum technology. Something biological had learned the human lesson. Something capable of making unpredictable decisions. Disappearing again. The machine had been designed to predict intelligent life. But this time, Daniel had spent days proving that humans were exceptionally difficult to predict. Every fleet placed his hand on the control surface. At the edge of the galaxy, the machine the first objects of the silence. A voice echoed through the chamber. Millions of machines. Unknown intelligence. A darkness moving between the stars. Answered. Captain Reed stood aboard the new human flagship. Around him were ships from hundreds of civilizations. The Galactic Council commander asked, "Predict behavior." "Are you afraid?" Daniel looked at the darkness. "No, of the machine couldn't calculate." The commander seemed surprised. That uncertainty disrupted the system. Daniel deliberately changed the sequence. Being afraid is useful. Then changed it again. He turned toward the fleet. And again. It tells you something the machine adapted. Daniel adapted faster. The galaxy's combined fleet human unpredictability into the dark intelligence. Not because humanity was fearless. The containment system stabilized. Not because humans were the strongest species. The ancient creatures stopped moving. But because they had learned the most important lesson of all. Daniel collapsed to the floor. Sometimes survival doesn't belong to the civilization with the greatest technology. Hours later, it belongs to the civilization that entered the chamber. When the technology sitting against the wall, and as the first stars vanished behind them, Daniel looked at humanity did something the galaxy had never done before. Why didn't you? They didn't run from the darkness, because someone had to fix your mistake. The commander stared at him. You understand that your species was classified as dangerous because of its unpredictable behavior. Daniel smiled. Sounds accurate. The commander slowly sat down. For the first time, he looked less like a conqueror, and more like a scientist. What are humans? Daniel thought for a moment, then answered, "We're the species that keeps trying." The commander frowned. Even when failure is guaranteed. Especially then. Epilogue, the report. 3 months later, the Varkan Empire changed its classification of humanity. Humans were no longer considered a potential security threat. They were classified as something much more specific. Uncontainable. The Silent Vault was rebuilt. But one rule was permanently added to its security system. Never underestimate a human. Because humans didn't always win through strength. Sometimes they won through patience. Sometimes through curiosity. Sometimes through cooperation. And sometimes, they simply refused to behave the way their enemy expected. Daniel Cross eventually returned to Earth. He became famous. Books were written about him. Scientists studied the Silent Vault. Military leaders studied his escape. But Daniel always rejected the title of hero. When journalists asked him how he escaped the galaxy's most secure prison, he gave the same answer. "I didn't escape." The journalist would usually look confused. "Then what happened?" Daniel would smile. "I convinced the prison that I was supposed to be somewhere else. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space." The Varkan Empire continued monitoring Earth. Not because they were planning an invasion, but because they had learned something terrifying. The galaxy was full of species that could be controlled. Species that followed patterns. Species that could be predicted. Species that could be contained. But humans? Humans were different. You could build walls around them. You could take away their weapons. You could lock every door. You could remove every possible escape route. And still, a human would sit quietly in the darkness. Look at the walls. Study the system. Find the smallest weakness. And ask the most dangerous question of all. What if we try something nobody has tried before? That was the real reason the Varkans feared humanity. Not because humans were the strongest species. Not because humans had the most advanced technology. But because when every logical path was closed, humans had a habit of creating a new one. And that habit was impossible to imprison.